most of the time it is all negative. And just to put it out there before I even begin, this video is not about bashing Zimbabweans. But however, I feel there are some things that need to be said, that need to be addressed, and hopefully it could help. Hi everyone, my name is Kudzie Nicolle Mapiye and welcome. On this channel, I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. So today I'm going to be talking about making Zimbabwean friends in Australia. Talking about what my experience was like coming to Australia for the first time 14 years ago and making Zimbabwean friends. And just to put it out there before I even begin, this video is not about bashing Zimbabweans. But however, I feel there are some things that need to be said, that need to be addressed, and hopefully it could help someone who is looking to move to Australia or overseas, or maybe some Zimbabweans already living overseas. So I just wanted to share my experience. I remember when I moved to Australia 14 years ago, the first thing that I wanted to do was to connect with Zimbabweans. You know, there's that feeling of longing for home, wanting to connect with something familiar. And I just naturally gravitated towards people from Zimbabwe. And I would actually seek out people from Zimbabwe. I remember I wanted to go to a Zimbabwean church. I wanted to have Zimbabwean friends. I wanted to just hang around Zimbabweans all the time. And what I noticed was three things that I want to share in this video. The first thing is, when you move overseas, do not make it a priority to look for Zimbabwean friends just for the mere fact that you want to connect with Zimbabweans. And I'll tell you why. The reason for that is, when you look for people based on just where they're from or their nationality, and that is your primary reason for friendship, you overlook some of the things that make people who they are, and even overlook some of the red flags like I did. Like, I would just seek people who were Zimbabweans, and even sometimes toxic people that didn't have my best interest at heart, people whose personalities were not aligned to who I was, but just the fact that, oh, we've just ended up in Australia together and we're Zimbabweans, so let's connect. And I did form connections and friendships with some Zimbabweans that didn't go very well for that reason, because I didn't try to find out who they were as people. My brain just kept focusing on the fact that they're Zimbabweans. Like, you just need to stick around what you know, stick around your people, like make friends with Zimbabweans. And I thought that's just what I needed to do. And I found that, you know, I had some very unfulfilling friendships because I wasn't looking for the right things. And when I started, like after I got a little bit burnt and I learned my lessons, I started looking for friendships based on who people were, not just where they were from. And just to put it out there, my current best friend is from Zimbabwe, and we didn't become friends because we were Zimbabweans. We became friends because we have so much in common. We're supportive of each other. We are very aligned in so many different ways, and she just happens to be Zimbabwean, which is great. But that wasn't what I was looking for. That wasn't the only box I was looking to tick. And I have formed some friendships with Australians, people from other nationalities, and they're living here in Australia, and it's been based on who they are as people. And I found that those friendships are more fulfilling than when you just focus on where someone's from. And then the second thing is, when you only hang around Zimbabweans when you live overseas, you don't get to assimilate, like you don't get to really settle into the country that you're in, because you're always hanging around people that make you feel like you are still in Zimbabwe. And you know, the thing is, when you're in another country, there's a lot of other information that you need in order to progress in life, in order to like integrate, in order to do activities and do other things. And sometimes that information is not amongst the people who are from your country, because you're both migrants, like you're all migrants. You're moving to this country, you don't know much. So you need to connect to people who have been in the country for longer, who are from the country, learn the culture, and not just stick to your own. So that's another thing that I've noticed, that, you know, when I used to look, I remember when I was at uni, there was this guy who always used to make friends with other nationalities. Like, I always used to just stick to Zimbabweans. And this guy used to make friends with like Australians, Arabs, people from other countries who were here in Australia. And that guy, like, while we were doing in uni, like these menial jobs as part-time work to get some pocket money, he was busy working some very good jobs that you would work like when you had graduated. He was working those kind of jobs because he had the connections. He had intentionally connected with other people who knew like how the workforce was in Australia, who knew what people looked for, who could advise him what to put on his resume, what other jobs he could get, not just like working at McDonald's or doing like other smaller jobs. He was more exposed than I was, and I was just doing jobs that other Zimbabweans were doing, and they were not very good jobs, but we're just hanging around each other. We had no access to new information from other people. Our minds were pretty much closed. So that's one thing, that's a danger of just seeking your own people, like, and always just wanting to be with your people and not exposing yourself. You can miss out on so many other opportunities. I know, like, when I connect with other nationalities, people who've been here for a long time, or people who have come from other countries, they have such new information. And I believe, for me, actually, my very first professional job, I got that like recommendation to go to that workplace, like that link from someone who was Australian. Like, I didn't get it from a Zimbabwean, and I am still at that workplace 12 years later, and it's a very good job. So it's some of the things that you just need to look out for when you're moving to another country. Don't just be focused on sticking to your own. Of course, connect with people from your country. I mean, it's everyone's longing to connect with their own, but also open up your mind. Connect with people from other countries. Connect with people from the country that you are in. If you're in Australia, connect with Australians. They know a lot more about Australia than you will ever do, because they're born in Australia, their ancestors were born in Australia, they have access to other information, and you find that you're not always lagging behind because of lack of information. They say knowledge is power. Get exposed, get connected, befriend people who have knowledge about the place where you are living. And the third thing is, always hanging around Zimbabweans can actually be bad for your mental health. And this is why I say that. I know whenever Zimbabweans gather, now if you're watching this and you're a Zimbabwean, reflect on your last gathering with other Zimbabweans and what you were talking about. When Zimbabweans gather in another country, they're not reminiscing about the good old times. They're not talking about, remember when we used to eat chibage, mfushwa. They're not talking about good memories. They're talking about how crap the economy is. They're talking about politics. They're talking about what's the current exchange rate. They're talking about negative things about the country. I have not met a Zimbabwean group, like at a party, for example, and people are gathered talking about Zimbabwe. Listen to that conversation. I challenge you. If you're Zimbabwean, listen to the content of the conversation. Most of the time, it is all negative. It is all negative. And another reason that people who live overseas do this is it's almost like sometimes to justify their move, to say we made the right decisions to get out of the country. Oh, we're so we're so glad we're not in Zimbabwe. Like, things are really bad. People are complaining. And then you go to Zimbabwe and people are living it up. But it's always Zimbabweans living overseas are always talking negatively about Zimbabwe. And if you're always around Zimbabweans, negative talk brings you down. It's not good for your mental health. Expose yourself to other friends where you can talk about other progressive things. Like, how to start a business, not only in Zimbabwe, how to start a business where you are living. In Australia, there are so many opportunities in this country or in any other country overseas. And you need to just change the conversation. Like, talking about Zimbabwean politics or the Zimbabwean economy while you are in Australia is not going to advance your life in Australia. It's not. It's just going to make you feel sad or make you depressed or not. Whether it's like justification or you feel, I don't know, whatever it is, it's just not good. It's not progressive. So hang around different people so that you can neutralize those conversations and also have a mix of, good conversations, how to advance in this country, not just about, how about, how do we build houses back home? How do we do this? I mean, that's all good, but remember where you're living. Before you know it, you open your eyes, it's been 10 years, it's been 20 years, and you've got nothing. Because you've just been talking about Zimbabwe, what's happening in Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, people in Zimbabwe are progressing because they're worrying about what's happening in their country that they're living in. They're buying houses, they're buying cars, people are progressing, they're starting businesses. They're worried about where they are. So always think about where you are and how you can better your life where you are. So those are the 3 things that I just wanted to share to be wary of when you come to a new country and you only seek out to hang out with people from your country. And in my case, only seek out to be with Zimbabweans. It's not a bad thing to connect with people from your country, but open your mind and be exposed, connect with other countries, other nationalities. The world is so much rich in culture and you will have so much to benefit and also to contribute from your culture. So that's it from me, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.